The three were fast, and they didn't run very far. I saw Mikasa running in a panic in the woods. Brook, the scarred face at the front, looked at Mikasa's delicate face with a greedy gleam in his eyes. They came to this generation this time because of Mikasa's mother. The ancestry and face of the Oriental people are very popular in the black market of Wangdu Underground Street. After waiting for several days, they finally found their chance. But during the arrest just now, the tall and thin man shot and killed the woman because he was too nervous. However, fortunately, he killed a woman and met a little girl. Their loss is not too great. Run. Why don't you run away? Damn, I'm exhausted. The three stopped panting and looked at Mikasa, who was tripped and fell to the ground. Scarface Brook grabbed Mikasa's neck with one hand and lifted Mikasa up. He was panting and cursing. The vicious eyes seemed to eat the little girl with dull eyes in front of him. Cough, cough, cough. Mikasa stared blankly. In her mind, the image of her parents being chopped into pieces by the man in front of her kept replaying in her mind. The big hands like iron hoops around her neck squeezed her so hard that she couldn't breathe. She felt cold all over, and the world lost its luster. Am I going to die? Can I see my parents when I die? Facing death, Mikasa felt no fear. The death of her parents left her no desire to live on. She closed her eyes, her mind was full of memories of her parents. The warmth of a family of three. But now, all of this has disappeared on this dark rainy night. Tuck tuck. On the dense horseshoes, there was a sound, getting closer. Go and see. Scarface Brook, throwing Mikasa on the ground. The sudden sound of hooves made him a little uneasy. Brook kicked the tall and thin man next to him holding a shotgun, motioning for the man to check the situation. The tall and thin man held the gun tightly and walked in the direction of the sound of horseshoes in the distance. He had his hand on the trigger, ready to fire it at any moment. Brook held Mikasa in one hand and dragged the long knife that had just chopped off Mikasa's parents with the other, and followed behind his two men. His fierce eyes quickly scanned the surroundings. Boom. The tall and thin man with the gun flew back upside down not long after he walked out. His body in midair was bow-shaped, twisting exaggeratedly. It hit a tree, and several trees were broken by the tall and thin man. Pooh. The tall and thin man spat out a mouthful of blood with his mouth open, and his pupils were slowly dilated. Lin Yan appeared in front of everyone. He slowly withdrew his right leg that he had kicked out, and Lin Yan didn't hold back the slightest force from that kick just now. Who are you and why did you hurt my companion? The burly Brook watched Lin Yan walk towards them, and he threw the Mikasa in his hand on the ground. The long-bladed knife in his hand began to charge secretly. The one who wants your life. Lin Yan stood where he was, without any emotion in his words. He quietly looked at Brook, who was like a small titan, and clenched his fists. He had just seen the mutilated bodies of Mikasa's parents all over the floor. Although he had only spent a few hours with Mikasa's parents. But the kindness exuded by the husband and wife was enough for Lin Yan to make a move for them. Human traffickers, no matter in the previous life or in this life, Lin Yan hates them extremely. What an arrogant boy. When Brook heard Lin Yan's words, he was furious immediately. His veins bulged, and he swung the long knife that had already been charged at Lin Yan forcefully. Although the long knife has been curled, it still shines coldly. Blessed with Brook's great strength, the blade brought up a storm and slashed towards Lin Yan's neck. Click. Lin Yan dodged sideways the moment the giant knife slashed at him. The giant knife struck the small tree next to Lin Yan, and the small tree was split in two by the knife. Brook cut through the air with one blow, and he couldn't help but staggered. Before he could stand still, a figure approached his side. Lin Yan's fist magnified in Brook's eyes. Before the fist arrived, the wind of the fist had already made his eyes close. Boom. With just one punch, Brook's eyes and head were blown apart. Red flesh like a watermelon spread out. His head was torn off from his neck by a huge force because of the force it received, and rolled out like a broken leather ball. Do not kill me. On one side was the short man who would have been immobilized by Lin Yan's movements for a long time. The body reeks of urine. Bang. With a flash of a knife in Lin Yan's hand, the little one was instantly split in half by Lin Yan. The blood was gone in a flash, and two pieces of flesh fell to the ground drooping. In just a moment, the three who were arrogant just now were completely dead. 10 days later, north of Sheena's wall. In some farmlands, finger-high shoots have emerged from the crops planted by farmers. Some industrious farmers are cleaning the weeds that grow together with the farmers in the fields. In the crop field in the hunter group farm, the crops are growing well. Separated by a fence from the one on the other side, the crops on the side of the hunter group's farm are average. How is this possible? The crops of these boys are so strong. What's the use of being strong, if the output can't increase? It's still nonsense. Several old farmers stood by the fence, looking at the thriving crops in Lin Yan's farm. I can't believe it. Before, a group of them felt that the half-sized boys of the hunter group were wasting their energy. But after only 1 month, they discovered that the crops in the hunter group's field grew much better than theirs. There are 2 or 3 white clouds in the sky, a rare sunny day. In the hunter group farm, a group of young and strong teenagers were busy on the farm. Behind the 3 rows of neatly painted white painted wooden houses, a new workshop is being built. From a distance, the workshop has been half built, and it looks like a large construction site at this moment. Levi, Fran, the warrior turned woodworker, helps out. Although the sun in the sky makes people a little uncomfortable. But the busy people enjoyed the roast very much. The teenagers were sweating and laughing happily. The whole farm is full of vitality. The workshops and white wooden houses are surrounded by crop fields. The lush crops are swaying with the wind under the breeze, looking as far as the eye can see, like a blue ocean. The unique fragrance of plants in the air is refreshing. A petite black-haired girl, hugging her knees, sat on the field ridge. Her short black hair was blown by the breeze. On her delicate and fair face, her big eyes were as bright as lacquer, filled with mist. A pair of willow leaf eyebrows were tightly frowned. The little girl is Mikasa, who was brought back to the hunter's farm by Lin Yan. Both her parents died and she had no one to turn to, so Lin Yan had to bring her back. Mikasa was sitting on the ridge of the field. She lowered her head and looked at the busy ants in the field with dull eyes. Although more than 10 days had passed since that terrible rainy night, she was still awakened by nightmares every day. The image of Brooke slashing at her parents with a machete is still etched in Mikasa's mind. Give. A deliciously browned bread with a strong aroma. And a slender hand appeared in Mikasa's vision. Mikasa raised his head slowly, and there was a tough profile in his eyes. A tall, black-haired boy with a cool and handsome aura sat beside her. Thanks. Mikasa took the bread and slowly broke it open. Little by little stuffed into the small mouth. She moves very slowly, very slowly. Lin Yan looked at the silent Mikasa next to him. He felt a little headache. Since he brought Mikasa back from the south, for 10 days, Mikasa only talked to himself. No matter who it was, Mikasa ignored him. Every day I just sit on the ridge in a daze. If you want to cry, just cry. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Mikasa's petite body couldn't help trembling with the bread in her hand. Tears were streaming down her eyes, which were already filled with mist. Woo woo woo. Mikasa hugged Lin Yan's arm and wept helplessly in a low voice, and her crying became louder and louder. From the initial sobbing to howling, the death of her parents was a huge blow to the young Mikasa. When she was young, the whole world collapsed at that moment. It also made Mikasa completely disappointed in this world. After Mikasa's parents died, she no longer had any relatives. She is like a firefly wandering alone in the dark. Swallowed by darkness, annihilated. Even life seems to have lost its meaning. Can I call you Big Brother from now on? After crying for a long time, Mikasa raised her head and looked at Lin Yan expectantly. The sadness that has been pent up in Mikasa's heart for many days. It seemed that because of the crying, it dissipated a little, and there was a gleam of light in her dark eyes. For Lin Yan, Mikasa has an inexplicable sense of dependence. Lin Yan not only helped her take care of her parents' funeral affairs, and helped her kill her enemies, so in this world, if there is anyone she cares about, then only Lin Yan is left. However, after Mikasa came to the north, he saw that Lin Yan had such a huge power. After owning such a large farm, she hesitated, who always wanted to call Lin Yan Big Brother. She is just a child of a peasant family, no matter how much she dares to ask for, she can call Lin Yan a big brother. In her opinion, this is a somewhat extravagant and even excessive request. Okay. Lin Yan nodded. He was more or less regretful that he could not save Mikasa's parents. The development of the plot still deviates from the original route. Instead of meeting Mikasa, Eren became him. This made Lin Yan a little annoyed, which meant that some unforeseen circumstances might happen later. Thank you, Big Brother. Hearing Lin Yan's response, Mikasa showed a hint of surprise on his anxious face. Then he started crying again, but unlike before, the crying at this time was not as full of grief as before. Holding Lin Yan's arm tightly, Mikasa was crying. Her restless and anxious heart became calm. She seems to have returned to her warm home. Everything is still the same as before, quiet and warm. The warm spring breeze blows the earth. Tired of crying, Mikasa hugged Lin Yan's arm tightly and fell asleep. On Mikasa's delicate white face, the willow-like brows stretched out, looking quiet and sweet. Finally recovered, Lin Yan looked at the sleeping Mikasa and heaved a sigh of relief. For the past 10 days, Mikasa has been half dead. Lin Yan wondered if she could survive. Now that Mikasa has recovered, she can also start training with the hunter group. Mikasa's combat talent is still very strong, although not as perverted as Levi, but in terms of talent. Mikasa, who has the blood of the Ackerman family, can also be ranked second in his hunter group. Lin Yan doesn't raise trash, he adopted Mikasa, not because he wanted to be a good person. Instead, he took a fancy to her fighting talent. Since Lin Yan added points to his physique to 8, his appetite has also become enormous. Far beyond ordinary people. In the past, Lin Yan could only eat one person's food in a meal. So now he needs at least the food intake of 8 ordinary adults to feel full. Lin Yan didn't dare to imagine how amazing his appetite would be when he arrived. Therefore, in order to obtain a large amount of food, Lin Yan must manage his hunter group well. Only in this way can the hunter group continue to make money and provide him with food. In this world, force is essential to protect one's own food. Therefore, the hunter group was divided into 2 parts. Some are mainly engaged in daily operations, such as farming, running workshops, and the business of hunter groups. The other part is dedicated to fighting to protect the industrial safety of the hunter group. Time flies. A month later, inside the huge manor next to the hunter group farm. The whole manor is pink, and the air of the manor is filled with the faint fragrance of cherry blossoms. A blue butterfly fluttered slowly on the branch of the cherry tree. It flaps its wings gracefully to avoid the oncoming pink petals blown down by the wind. The blue wings of the butterfly are shining in the eyes, in the rain of pink petals. Extra dazzling. Swish. A net draws an arc in the sky, and the butterfly is instantly caught in the net. It flapped its blue wings, but to no avail. Haha, I caught it. Tear off half of its wings and see how it flies. By the fence of the manor, 2 dirty boys holding a net bag, looking at the struggling blue butterflies in the net bag. Smiling excitedly. One of them, a stocky boy with a snotty nose, reached out and took out a blue butterfly. He laughed when he heard his partner speak, and was about to tear off a wing of the blue butterfly in front of him. Can you give me the butterfly? I'll exchange this sweet potato. Just when the snot-nosed boy was about to tear off the butterfly's wings, a crisp voice came from a distance. The little boy wiped his snot on the back of his hand and stared at the blonde girl walking in the distance. Looking at the girl in front of her who is clean, her hair is neatly combed, and she exudes a noble temperament. The boy looked at the mud all over his body again, feeling jealous in his heart. Rista, pass the sweet potatoes. The boy with a snotty nose held the butterfly and quickly ran to Krista. He stretched out his muddy hand, and his tone was beyond doubt. But butterfly, can you give me the butterfly? That's beautiful, haha, idiot, the sweet potato is mine, and the butterfly is also mine. The boy snatched the sweet potato from Krista's hand, and looked at Krista viciously, his face full of complacency. He sniffed the snot hanging on his nose, then looked at Krista fiercely and threatened. If you dare to tell that black-haired man what happened today, I'll kill you, hear you. After threatening Krista, the boy was ready to leave triumphantly with the sweet potato in his arms. Krista fell to the ground when the boy grabbed the sweet potato. There was mist in her eyes, and she was about to cry, but she held back. Call out. Sudden. A rope loop flew over from a distance, and it was precisely wrapped around the boy's neck. Immediately, the rope on the rope circle was straightened instantly, and the boy was pulled up by the rope around his neck. Like a fish with a fat head that was caught, it was lifted into the air in an instant. Cough cough cough, The burly boy in midair was strangled, and his face instantly turned purple. His eyes were wide open, the sweet potato and the butterfly net bag in his hand fell to the ground, his feet fluttered in a panic. Facing the direction of the rope, the boy saw a black-haired boy riding on a strong and handsome horse. Holding a harness in his hand, he looked at him calmly. A sense of suffocation swept through his body. The boy looked at the black-haired boy beggingly, and he recognized that the boy was the owner of the farm next door. Please. Please, let. Lin Yan effortlessly held the harness pole in his hand with one hand, not paying attention to the boy's pale face. And the boy's begging eyes. He looked at Krista, who was pushed to the ground by the boy, and said lightly, "You didn't come to my horse on time today. Don't be late next time." Krista looked at Lin Yan on the horse in surprise. She quickly got up from the ground, her little face was full of guilt. "Because I often go to the library of Lin Yan Farm to read books, as a price." Krista helps Lin Yan feed the horses every day. She was late today because she wanted to switch from a boy to a butterfly. "Sorry, big brother, I won't be late in the future. Can you let Docklin go through the fence?" Krista looked at the violently struggling boy who was suspended in the air by Lin Yan's harness. There was a trace of unbearable in his eyes. Thump. Hearing Krista's words, Lin Yan flicked the harness in his hand. The boy with a fat head like a fish was thrown by Lin Yan over the fence and fell into the pond in the manner. It hit the water with a loud splash. Quack quack. The water in the pond was splashed and splashed. A few white geese in the pond were frightened by the sudden splash of water, flapping their wings and running away quickly. Suddenly fell into the water. The strong Docklin was directly inserted into the mud, struggling to pull his head out of the mud, and he choked up several times of muddy water. Docklin, whose face was full of mud, looked at Lin Yan, who was riding on horseback and retracting the rope from a distance. The fear in his eyes turned into tears, not daring to make a sound. It seems that the other party will not tolerate him just because he is a child. Krista, blindly forbearance will only make things worse. Lin Yan looked at Krista and shook her head, and retracted the rope around the little boy's neck. After leaving a word, he rode away on horseback. Krista is the same as the original book, still the kind girl who is a bit too kind. Even if she was bullied like this, she still didn't hate the boy who bullied her. But, looking at Lin Yan's straight back, Krista's big blue eyes with blonde hair were full of gratitude. Although Lin Yan usually doesn't pay much attention to her appearance. But every time she goes to feed Lin Yan's horses, Lin Yan will leave some delicious food for her. Sometimes it's beautiful pastries, sometimes it's sweets she's never had. So although feeding horses is hard work for her, she never tires of it. Rely on their own labor in exchange for the right to food. This made Krista very happy. And in her family manner, she not only has to face the disgusting eyes of her mother and grandmother every day. Also often bullied. What's more, they only eat sweet potatoes every day. So whenever she has time, she runs to Lin Yan's farm. Don't get caught next time. Run to the net bag that fell on the ground. Krista carefully opened the net bag, and took out the blue butterfly inside with her white hands. Watching the blue butterfly slowly fly up and disappear into the sky full of cherry blossoms, Krista showed an angelic smile. Immediately, Krista stepped over the fence and chased after Lin Yan where he disappeared. Inside the hunter group farm. Compared with a month ago, there is a big difference. Before, only a part of the workshop was built, but it has been completely completed. Seen from a height, a row of orange-red wooden houses has been added to the farm where there were only 3 rows of white wooden houses before. This is the workshop of the hunter group. White steam exudes from the chimney of the orange-red wooden house. People kept coming in and out of the cabin. Bring in some supplies. Or lift out some wooden boxes. In front of the orange house in the workshop, a neat row of carriages parked in the middle of the open space in the yard. After the carriage was unloaded by the workshop boys, it was quickly filled with goods and left the farm. A month's time. The hunter group not only built a farm, but also resumed the production of the workshop. Near the workshop, under a big tree covered with moss, Mikasa, drenched in sweat, stood on a small stool, stood on tiptoe trembling, and pulled towards the rope above his head. Her delicate fair little face looked a little pale. The forehead was covered with dense beads of sweat. At the other end of the rope is a big black bell. Mikasa, who can usually easily pull the rope. Mikasa was already sore and limp from training all morning. The rope that could have been easily grasped is now very difficult. Enough several times have not been able to reach. Even though Mikasa was so sore all over, it was difficult to even stand upright. But stubborn, she still refused to give up, grabbing the rope in midair again and again. The small stool was shaking, and the amplitude was getting bigger and bigger. Mikasa, who was sore all over his body, slipped and was about to fall off the bench. Suddenly, Mikasa felt her collar being grabbed, and she was lifted to the ground by a gentle force. This time, she discovered that at some point, Lin Yan had come to her. Mikasa, who was still in shock, felt the safety brought by the earth again, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If Lin Yan hadn't appeared, she would have fallen to the ground. Thank you, big brother. Mikasa looked up at Lin Yan's calm and tough face, and said thank you sweetly. Is it that tall? Touching Mikasa's head, Lin Yan compared his height. Then leave quickly. After a while Lin Yan appeared in front of Mikasa again. Another length was attached to the rope under the bell. Mikasa looked at the rope that she could easily grab in her hand, and looked at Lin Yan. Her heart was filled with warmth. Dang dang dang. As the iron bell was rang by Mikasa, everyone who was busy in the whole farm put down their work. It's time to eat. People began to gather in the cafeteria. After joining the hunter group, Mikasa started her daily hard training life. In addition, she also took on the task of ringing the bell in the farm. Responsible for ringing the bell at mealtime. The canteen of the hunter group is inside a yellow wooden house. The canteen is located between the living area of the white wooden house and the working area of the orange wooden house. 10 minutes later, the cafeteria was already full of people who came to eat, and at a glance, there were no empty seats, neatly. Although there were many people, no one spoke, and everyone waited quietly. Swish. Seeing a tall figure slowly coming in at the door, everyone looked over in unison. Their eyes are full of reverence and fanaticism. The figure was Lin Yan, who came in from the outside. Okay. Lin Yan scanned the crowd and nodded slightly when he saw the orderly and uncluttered cafeteria. Everyone in the hunter group straightened their backs. Feeling the glance of Lin Yan's eyes without the slightest emotion, everyone in the hunter group felt tremendous pressure. Just standing there, Lin Yan had a majestic majesty that made everyone unable to look directly at him. Lin Yan, who was sitting in his seat and started eating, hummed. Everyone felt light all over in an instant, as if a boulder had been removed from their hearts. Then they started eating. Lin Yan took the main seat. The table in front of me was covered with food. He cut a piece of beef, inserted it with a fork, put it in his mouth, and chewed slowly. Ding. Congratulations to the host. The point increase progress has reached 100%, points +1. Hearing the system's notification tone, Lin Yan was a little surprised. It has only been a little over a month since the last point increase. But he heard the system beep again. In contrast, the increase in points is much faster than before. Previously, it took an average of 2.5 months to increase 1 point. Now, in more than a month, 1 point has been added again. Lin Yan opened the system panel. System panel. Host. Lin Yan current world. Attack on Titan. Physique. 8, 6 meter level unscaled Titan level. Points. 1, 0, skills. Fighting LV6, Forging LV5, 3-dimensional mobile device manipulation LV1, Brewing LV2, Cooking LV1. Seeing one more point on the system panel, Lin Yan thought for a while, and added the point to his physique. Ding. Congratulations to the host, the physique point has reached 9, and the physique has reached the level of a 6.5 meter Wuskal Titan. As the system sounded, Lin Yan felt warm all over his body. He could feel that the sense of power in his body became stronger again. The heartbeat became stronger and stronger, pumping blood vigorously. Lung breathing is longer. The skin is more resilient. Muscles become firmer. The most obvious is the stomach. Lin Yan could feel his stomach wriggling like an oven. It seems to have become a pulverizer. After a while, Lin Yan, who just ate a large piece of beef, disappeared without a trace. A strong sense of hunger came from his body. For the beef, 10 caddies first. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Isabel is in charge of Lin Yan's usual diet. He quickly walked into the kitchen and served Lin Yan a pot of beef. Seeing that Lin Yan quickly finished all the meat on the plate, Levi was not at all surprised. He grew up with Lin Yan since he was a child, and he knew from a long time ago that Lin Yan is a big eater. Every time I eat, I have to eat several times more than him. But the habitual look on Levi's face lasted for a short time. Boss's appetite seems to have increased again. 10 minutes later, Levi looked at the wooden tubs piled up in front of Lin Yan that were specially used to hold meat. Even he, who was used to Lin Yan's big appetite, couldn't help being surprised. A full 100 caddies of beef was eaten by Lin Yan just like that. Moreover, Lin Yan ate not only beef, but also a large amount of bread, sweet potatoes, and a large bucket of milk. And dozens of apples. Could this be the secret of the boss becoming stronger? Levi has been training hard all these years, but every time he competed with Lin Yan, he ended in failure. Seeing that Lin Yan was still eating at a leisurely pace, Levi was always interested in how Lin Yan became stronger. There was a flash of light in my mind, as if I had a clear understanding. Cuckoo. Levi, who was already full, picked up a small half bucket of milk and drank it. Deputy head, this is. In the cafeteria, everyone was stunned by Lin Yan's appetite and opened their mouths wide. Suddenly Levi was seen lifting the milk and guzzling. Seeing Levi's low body, his stomach is obviously bulging slowly. A light flashed in his mind. The strongest hunter group is the leader Lin Yan. Next is Levi. They all eat so much, so. Give me another meal. I also want, give me one too. In the cafeteria, Isabel, who is in charge of food supply, watched the people who kept gathering to eat. She looked at Lin Yan who was still eating. Isabel suddenly thought. Lin Yan misled everyone, but she didn't say much. Instruct the person in charge of the cafeteria to bring out the spare food for everyone. The next day. Noon. The sun in the sky is scorching the earth, and there is no cloud in sight. The temperature is rising sharply. The air was slightly distorted by the high temperature, and the leaves of the plants on the ground were curled under the scorching sun. Squeak. In a huge forest, a cicada screamed tirelessly from a tree. Break. Break. Suddenly, in the silent forest, the sound of steel cables passing through metal sounded. As steel cables shot out from the woods, the cicada on the tree was instantly pierced by one of the steel cables. Immediately afterwards, a group of teenagers wearing three-dimensional mobile devices appeared under the blue sky. Quickly passing through this forest lined with giant trees. Click click click. Levi, Isabel, and Fran, who are leading the crowd, cut staggeredly with the steel knives in their hands. Cut the sandbags on the back necks of the Titan models on their way in turn. The movements of the three were done in one go, extremely fluent. Well done. Lin Yan stood at the finish line, holding a timer he modified himself. He nodded slightly to the three who arrived at the finish line first. Since Lin Yan returned from the last battle with the Titan, Lin Yan began to lead the hunter group to conduct actual combat simulation training. Now everyone has made great progress. In fact, when Lin Yan recruited members of the hunter group, one of the assessment criteria was balance ability. The 50 fighters in the hunter group were all specially selected. Therefore, it is much faster than ordinary people to use three-dimensional mobile devices. Hearing Lin Yan's praise, Levi, Fran and Isabel were all a little excited. Levi, whose childishness had dissipated, looked at Lin Yan expectantly and asked. Boss, when are we going to take a look outside? The last time Lin Yan killed all directions on the southern border, and even killed a strange species, it spread to almost every region. Others don't know who the black-haired boy is, but they do. This greatly increased Levi's interest in hunting the Titan, who already admired Lin Yan. So Levi has always hoped to go out with Lin Yan to kill Titan. When are you waiting? You can travel in the dark without hindrance. Suppress the simulation time to 1 minute. Hearing Lin Yan's words, the three of them let out a sigh of relief. Among the three of them, Levi is the fastest to cross this area. The best score also took 3 minutes. Both Fran and Isabel hovered above 4 minutes. Because a gas replenishment machine was successfully obtained in the farm. The three-dimensional mobile device training of the three was almost day and night. But after thousands of attempts, the three of Levi realized how difficult it is to compress the time. For every second of compression, they have to pay dozens of efforts. Boss, don't go back on your word. Levi quickly replenished the gas, then he pulled the catapult and rushed out first. He believes that within a minute, he can do it too. Although Lin Yan's fastest record is 40 seconds. Soon Isabel and Fran rushed out, also full of fighting spirit. 40 seconds is my limit. Looking at the three people who disappeared into the woods, Lin Yan smiled faintly, and gave a negative answer in his heart. May. After entering May, the weather gets hotter and hotter. The spring wheat planted in spring is already waist deep, and some of them have begun to ear. The wheat in the hunter group farm looks stronger than the wheat in other surrounding farmlands. Some have begun to grout. The ears of wheat become gradually fuller and tighter. The wheat plants, which were originally straight, gradually tilted slightly because of the gradually heavier ears of wheat. How is this possible? How did they do it? Why don't we ask for advice? Next year we will plant like them. Outside the fence of the hunter group's farm, there were a few old farmers who had been disdainful and suspicious of the planting methods of the hunter group. Looking at the well-growing wheat in Lin Yan's farm, I am amazed. A few people really can't figure it out. They have waited for others to plant the land all their lives. Why on earth did he lose to a group of brats? After they couldn't find the answer, several people decided to ask for advice. As long as you can get a bigger harvest, the so-called face is not worth mentioning. Beside the wheat field, two furtive figures slipped through a hole in the fence. Doclan, what if we get caught? I saw that black-haired man in the morning, riding out on horseback. We injected the drug and ran away. In the wheat field, two boys moved on the ridge. They quickly approached a corner of the hunter group and sneaked towards the stables. Doclan holds a packet of rat poison in his hand. He remembered that a few days ago, he was almost strangled to death by Lin Yan with a horse pole, and the light of hatred flashed in his eyes. Take courage and start sprinkling medicine. What are you doing? What's in your hand? Just as Doclan was spraying the medicine, Krista, who had read a book at noon in the hunter group, returned to the stable. It is also part of her job not to clean up the hay in the stables. The sudden sound made Doclan startled, but when he saw that Krista was coming, he breathed a sigh of relief, and then showed a fierce expression. Pulled out the dagger from his waist and rushed towards Krista. Doclan knew that if Lin Yan knew about this, he would be dead. He still remembers that man's expressionless gaze. If it weren't for him because he proved to so many children that he was bold and fearless, he probably will never enter Lin Yan's farm again. So after being discovered, Doclan had only one thought in mind, and that was to shut Krista up. Do you want to tell that black-haired devil again? If you tell what happened today, then you are dead. The dagger in Doclan's hand was waving towards Krista indiscriminately. While waving the dagger, he began to threaten Krista. Krista looked at Doclan, who was waving a dagger at her, and she thought of Lin Yan's words. Blindly giving in will only make things worse. Who you just said is a devil. Also, how did you get in here? Just when Krista was cornered by Doclan holding a dagger, a cold voice sounded. Follow the direction of the sound. Doclan saw a little girl with black hair, drenched in sweat, with a weary face. Sister Mikasa, they cast poison in the stables. Krista finally mustered up her courage, and she yelled at Mikasa. Although she didn't meet Mikasa much, but I was deeply impressed by this girl who worked hard to run around the hunter group's farm every day. Today, don't leave. Hearing Krista's words, Mikasa's eyes filled with murderous intent. She has long regarded Lin Yan as her family and hunter farm as her home. But the two people in front of them dared to run over to throw poison, forcibly dragging the body that has been overdrawn after a day of training. Mikasa tightly held the dagger in her hand, her eyes fixed on the little fat man who was much taller than her. Go away. Doclan was dumbfounded when he heard Krista's words. Thinking of Lin Yan's cold eyes, he regretted it very much at this moment. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to run. Looking at the thin Mikasa standing in front of him, his heart skipped a beat. He held the dagger and stabbed towards Mikasa. Krista watched as Doclan stabbed Mikasa with a dagger. Her mind went blank. I closed my eyes in fright. Peeved. Mikasa just wanted to let go, but suddenly her head sank and her eyes went black. While dodging hastily, he was slashed by the dagger of Doclan, who rushed over. The blocking arm was scratched, and blood fell instantly. Go away, you go away from me. Doclan watched his accomplice running far away, and he wanted to ride Mikasa down to the ground and start running too. As a result, as soon as he took a step, Mikasa hugged one foot and fell to the ground in an instant. Anxious, he picked up the knife and stabbed at Mikasa. Boom. Just when Doclan was about to stab Mikasa with a dagger, he felt a buzzing in his head, and after the severe dizziness passed, his head became hot, and bright red blood flowed down from the back of his head. Doclan turned his head and saw that Krista, who had been trembling with fear, was actually holding a stone. If you don't stop, I will smash you to death. Krista looked at Doclan, who turned to look at her. The stone in her hand trembled a little. Krista mustered up her courage, raised the stone, and threatened Doclan weakly. Although she was trembling all over, she didn't mean to retreat at all. You guys are lucky. Doclan covered his head, kicked off Mikasa, who was holding his leg, and ran towards the fence. But before he ran far, he just stood there in a daze. A tall man, mounted on a horse, clutching his fleeing companion with one hand. Lin Yan got off the horse and threw the little kid in his hand to the ground. Then he walked to Mikasa and Krista's side. Lin Yan took out a roll of gauze from the pouch on his waist and slowly wrapped Mikasa's arm. You are young, but you are capable. Fran, give them a ride. Lin Yan looked at the two men who were scared to piss, and said a word lightly. Immediately pick up Mikasa and leave with Krista. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Fran understood. Although Lin Yan's tone is very flat, Fran has been Lin Yan's subordinate for many years. He still heard the faint anger hidden in Lin Yan's words. Under the setting sun, Fran with blonde hair lit a cigarette and took a deep breath. Watching Lin Yan leave with Mikasa and Krista, he was completely invisible. He didn't pay any attention to the pleading in the eyes of the two children in front of him. Pooh. Puff. He swung the knife in his hand without hesitation. Along with the bloody arc, 2 heads fell to the ground. Some devils are already devils when they are very young. Evening. The sun in the west lost the glare of the day, and radiated soft golden light. The original green crops in the crop field were also dyed golden, which looked like gold was inlaid around the jade. The unique fragrance of wheat in the air spreads in all directions with the breeze. A tall and straight boy was walking on the field ridge with a little girl on his back. His shadow was drawn long by the setting sun. The little black-haired girl quietly nestled on the boy's back, like a curled-up kitten. Lin Yan walked steadily on the field ridge towards the pharmacy with Mikasa on his back. Krista has been sent home by him. Why don't you call someone? Turning his head to look at Mikasa lying on his shoulder, Lin Yan spoke softly. The training volume of the hunter group has always been extremely heavy. Generally, after training, very few newcomers can stand up and walk down. Mikasa was the hardest one in training again. So Lin Yan knew why Mikasa didn't beat the poisoned child just by thinking about it. I want to give it a try and do something for Big Brother. Mikasa's face was pale and her voice was hoarse. She answered Lin Yan's question in a low voice. Today's training consumed too much energy of Mikasa. During the confrontation with the boy, she kept supporting herself. Hearing Mikasa's words, Lin Yan paused slightly. In Mikasa's words, Lin Yan felt a strong desire to protect, which belonged to Mikasa's stubbornness. In the castle, Krista returned to her room with dull eyes. Along the way, she met many servants, but no one asked her where she had gone or why there were mud spots on her clothes. Since birth, Krista has been a transparent person in this manner. Her grandmother and mother would visit her when they thought of her. Usually never ask her anything. This is also the fundamental reason why she was able to run out of the manor frequently, but no one found out. She is a transparent person. Is it sweet potato again? Krista looked at the cold sweet potatoes in her room with deep disappointment. In the manor, her grandfather raised several horses, and the food they ate included beans and eggs. And she only had sweet potatoes to eat. It would be great if I were like Sister Mikasa. Lie down by the window. Looking at the brightly lit hunter farm in the distance, Krista couldn't help but envy Mikasa. Mikasa's strength during the day and Lin Yan's subtle protection made her envious. If I join the training group, can't I be like Sister Mikasa? Suddenly an idea flashed in Krista's mind, and then she strengthened her own idea. Blind compromise will make things worse. Lin Yan's words echoed in Krista's mind again. Krista recalled all the bullying by everyone in the past, and remembered what happened today. Her originally weak eyes became a little different. 3 months later. In the night, there is no shadow of the moon in the sky, only stars all over the sky. A moth flapped its wings vigorously and flew towards a bright spot. In the dark and dim valley, a carriage was parked on the side of the road, a smoky kerosene lamp was hung on the carriage, and a moth swooped from the night sky. Click. The yellow light flickered away, and the moth flying towards the kerosene lamp was instantly cut in half. The moth's corpse slowly slid down in the blue smoke, and under the faint light of the kerosene lamp, it looked like 2 halves of broken leaves. Rista, another accidental product. A eagle-eyed man with the vicissitudes of life was half leaning on the carriage. He held a cigarette in his calloused left hand. In his right hand, he held a piece of yellowed paper. There was an address on the paper, plus a name, and little dots of gray-silver phosphorescence. The dots are clumps of fine moth hairs. The man's name is Kenny Ackerman. Uncle of Levi Ackerman, currently the captain of the suppression unit of the Central Military Police Regiment. In the early years, Kenny Ackerman also had a title, Kenny the Throat Cutter, because he was fighting against the Central Military Police Regiment. There are countless outlaws who died at his hands. As the knife in the hands of the royal family, Kenny was appointed by the royal family. Specially deal with some unrevealed things for the royal family, such as assassination and cleaning. This time his target was a girl named Krista. Speaking of which, that kid should not be too young. And that black-haired kid, is he still alive? Stuffing out the cigarette in his hand, Kenny thought of Levi, who was also an accidental product. Kenny remembered the indifference in Levi's eyes when he met Levi in Wangdu Underground Street. And the calmness in the eyes of the little black-haired boy next to Levi that doesn't match his age. Drive. After a rest, Kenny Ackerman drove the carriage and set off again. In his carriage, two shiny black boxes with the size of heads looked eerie under the faint starlight. North of Sheena's wall. The north in August already has the characteristics of autumn. Like thick fog. A milky white fog shrouded the agricultural area, and the golden wheat could be faintly seen covering the vast land. Dewdrops hang on the weeds on the ridge of the field. Crystal clear, each one is like a glass bead. A grasshopper sucked the moisture off its legs with its mouthparts, and then jumped up from the ridge of the field. It wants to look for tender grass in another place. Caught it. What a big grasshopper. Krista carefully opened her white palm, looked at the huge grasshopper, and smiled happily. Her white skirt was half wet with dew. There are many grasshoppers that can be vaguely seen in a bamboo cage on the waist. Rista, morning exercise will start soon. Understood, come right away. Mikas's voice came from the white mist, and when Krista heard it, she put the grasshopper into the bamboo cage on her waist. Then ran out. On the training ground, everyone has already started a day of morning exercises. Whether it is a rookie or an elite, daily morning exercises are the basic exercises that must be attended. Krista ran behind Mikasa. She has been in the hunter group for 3 months and has just adapted to the high-intensity training in the hunter group. In the past 3 months, she has become more confident than she was before. Why are you catching grasshoppers? It's a secret. Mikasa was running in the mist with the main force. She saw the bamboo basket with grasshoppers on Krista's waist and asked curiously. Hearing Mikasa's question, Krista ran forward with a mysterious face. In order to catch these grasshoppers, she got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Within a few months, Mikasa and Krista, who were about the same age, became good friends. In addition to only talking to Lin Yan, Mikasa usually has another Krista. At noon, the milky white fog was lifted by the dazzling sun, revealing the golden ocean. In the golden wheat fields that can't be seen at a glance. Full ears of wheat are the best gifts for hardworking people. It seems that the harvest is not bad. Lin Yan stands on the ridge of the field. Looking at the wheat that was still a piece of wheat seedlings a few months ago, it has now become full ears of wheat. A faint smile appeared on his face. Although the hunter group's main income does not rely on these grains, who doesn't like to see such a bumper harvest in front of them? There are 3 poles in the sun. Everyone in the hunter group began to harvest wheat. It was the first time to plant food, and when everyone saw the wheat in front of them, the smiles on their faces never stopped from the very beginning. They grew up in Wangdu Underground Street and cherish everything in front of them. Krista looked around in the wheat field. Suddenly her eyes lit up and she ran towards a place. Big brother, this is for you. Lin Yan looked at the food box that Krista handed over, and after being puzzled, he opened it. Inside were charred worms. It can be vaguely seen that it is a grasshopper. It tastes pretty good. Hearing Lin Yan's comment, Krista smiled happily. It was Lin Yan who rescued her several times when she encountered difficulties, and she always wanted to thank Lin Yan. But because she is not valued by her family, she has nothing to give Lin Yan. A few days ago, Lin Yan occasionally heard that the grasshoppers in her hometown taste very good, so she went to catch the grasshoppers overnight. Although she didn't know if grasshoppers could be eaten. In order to roast these grasshoppers, she was burned in several places on her hands. Russell. Big brother, there are so many birds in the sky. Lin Yan is tasting the charred grasshopper on the plate. He has always paid great respect to food. Hearing Krista's voice, Lin Yan raised his head, then froze in place. His physique has improved a lot, and his eyesight has long surpassed that of ordinary people. Lin Yan instantly recognized what it was. That thing was also on the plate in his hand. Called locusts. Looking at the locusts flying over in the distance, covering the sky and covering the sun, even though Lin Yan has seen a lot and knows a lot, cannot help but be shocked by the spectacular sight. On the horizon in the distance, it seemed as if a sandstorm had swept up. The black and dense locusts made one's scalp numb. Even if it was far away, Lin Yan could still hear the sound of the locusts' wings vibrating. Everyone, speed up the harvest. Seeing the locusts sweeping in the distance, Lin Yan knew that disaster was coming. But luckily, the wheat on the Hunter Group farm was almost harvested because the planting time was half a month earlier than that of the surrounding farms. In the surrounding farms, the wheat has just been filled with grout, and it is still blue. Without thinking, Lin Yan knew what these farms would face next. Chua. Hearing Lin Yan's words, everyone began to speed up the harvesting. Quickly harvesting the last few pieces of wheat. It didn't take long for the last piece of wheat field to be harvested by everyone. Is this a locust? I thought it was a sparrow. After cutting off the last handful of wheat, Fran wiped his sweat. He reached out and caught a locust. It was the first time he had seen a locust the size of a sparrow. There were some locusts in the hunter group's farm before, and Frank also heard Lin Yan mention it. Said locusts are delicious. However, because of the small number, it has long been eaten by thousands of ducks on the farm. Fran wanted to get a few to try, but he gave up because there were too few. Now seeing the locust as big as a sparrow in his hand, Fran couldn't help but have the idea of trying. The members of the hunter group, under the leadership of Lin Yan, generally have the attribute of foodies. Fortunately, it's all over. Lin Yan breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the people who had already started to thresh the wheat. There are not many locusts entering the hunter's farm now, and the locusts seem to be not interested in the withered crops. The other side, on the yellow-green field. The air is filled with a grassy smell, which is the unique smell emitted by plants after they are destroyed. In the wheat field, a thick wild oat tree, growing wildly, looks much taller than the surrounding wheat. Stand out from the crowd. On its tender green stalks a bunch of oats has just grown. It looks verdant. As the breeze blew, a few fat, shiny locusts flapped their wings and fell from the sky. The locust opened its huge mouthparts, biting on the oat stalk, gnawing on it. Extremely fast. In a blink of an eye, the sturdy oats were eaten clean by locusts. And around the wild oats, the yellow-green weed surrounding the wild oats has also been covered with locusts at this moment. Clusters of fat locusts hang from the wheat. It looks like locusts have buried the wheat in the ground. After a while, the locusts ate up the wheat. After eating one place, the locusts flew up again, looking for the next target. Looking around, there was just a yellow-green wheat field, but in a blink of an eye, there was no grass, and only the dark land was left. Bastard, damn robber, give me back the food. Get out of here, get out of here. Around the fields, desperate farmers rushed into their fields. They held hoes and sickles in their hands, and waved them wildly, trying to drive away the locusts in front of them. But there were too many locusts, and as soon as they drove away one group, another group came over. In a blink of an eye, the grain in their fields was eaten up. The breath of despair, as the locusts continued to migrate, completely permeated. The screams of crying, covering all directions. The entire northern development area, which was originally a scene of a bumper harvest. Because of the sudden arrival of locusts, it became a Jedi. The green earth is like a green blanket covering the earth. It was completely uncovered and eaten away by the army of locusts, and in the end, only the pitch-black land remained. One day later, after the dull thunder in the sky, pea-sized raindrops fell from the sky. The earth gradually becomes moist, and the stagnant water slowly accumulates. It didn't take long for it to converge into a stream and become a flood. Bark. A carriage was advancing rapidly on a muddy dirt road, after a sharp bend. Because the ground was slippery and muddy, the carriage slid out and nearly overturned, and finally hit a bare tree on the side of the road. Even the leaves are gone. Kenny Ackerman was sitting on the carriage, not paying any attention to the fact that the carriage almost overturned just now. After lighting a cigarette, Kenny looked at the bare woods in front of him, and slowly puffed out the clouds. This way, everywhere he saw was a mess destroyed by locusts. Where can I see the slightest bit of green? Drive. A carriage passed by Kenny, leaving deep ruts. As long as people guess, they can guess that the carriage is pulling heavy objects. Watching the passing carriage getting farther and farther away, Kenny returned to the carriage after smoking. Driving the carriage, he planned to go to a neighboring town to replenish some supplies. One day later, inside the dark underground space, a mouse crawled through the holes, sniffing its wet nose, and soon came to a place of light. Boom. A huge metal impact sounded, and the mouse that had just climbed to a barred window was scared by the sound and turned around and ran away. How about the food reserves? The underground granaries are already full, and our people are still collecting grain outside. There are things like moisture-proof rats here, you need to pay more attention. In a huge cellar, Isabel is holding a kerosene lamp and showing Lin Yan the way. While talking to Isabel, Lin Yan pushed open a huge iron door. This is one of the 3 granaries of the hunters. Since moving to the north, most of Lin Yan's money has been used to buy food. Money has no effect on Lin Yan. Only high-quality food can bring people a sense of security. Now there are 252 people in the hunter group. Among the food consumed every day, Lin Yan accounts for 1/10 of the food consumption. In other words, the amount of food Lin Yan now has can already be compared with 25 people. Moreover, the food intake of members of the hunter group is twice as large as that of ordinary people. So in fact Lin Yan can eat the food of 50 ordinary people in one meal. This huge consumption has always made Lin Yan feel a strong sense of crisis, so he has developed the habit of stockpiling food since he was a child. The 3 underground warehouses of the hunter group now store enough food for 252 people for 5 years. In addition, there are more than 3,000 ducks, more than 1,000 chickens, 10 cows, and hundreds of sheep in the hunter group farm. More than 60 horses. All kinds of things. After nearly a year, Lin Yan can be considered to have some background in the north. Is the boss really going to famine? Isabel followed Lin Yan. Looking at the mountains of wheat in front of her, she remembered what Lin Yan said before. When the wheat was harvested, Lin Yan judged that there would be a famine. But after several days, it seemed that everything was fine and there was no movement. At most half a month, it will explode. Tell Levi, send twice as many people to protect the food delivery team. In just 2 days, Lin Yan has turned nearly 70% of the goods and money in his hand into food. A lot of food is on the way back. This locust plague, as well as continuous torrential rains, not only the wheat, but 80% of the sweet potatoes in the field will also have a sharp drop in harvest. Most people have some food in their homes, but Lin Yan knows that this is just the calm before the food shortage. Therefore, the increase in food prices has become inevitable, and the currency will depreciate substantially. After inspecting the underground granary, Lin Yan came out from the ground. There was no rush to leave. After saying goodbye to Lin Yan, Isabel held an umbrella and disappeared into the rain. She has many things to do. 17-year-old Isabel is no longer the young girl she was before. On her body, the taste of maturity has become more and more obvious, and the former one has become an S. Boss, there seems to be something on my mind. Walking in the rain, Isabel turned to look at Lin Yan who was standing under the granary. Isabel noticed Lin Yan's brows. These days, there was a hint of worry. Growing up with Lin Yan, Isabel knows Lin Yan like few others. Although Lin Yan didn't say anything, Isabel could still hear some small movements from Lin Yan. You can tell that Lin Yan seems to be worried about something. On the side of the granary, Lin Yan frowned slightly as he looked at the continuous rain curtain on the eaves. That moment is getting closer and closer. Although from the original book, the time when Titan breaks the city is still early. But Lin Yan always has the feeling that maybe the time when Titan breaks the city will not be exactly the same as the original. This locust plague made Lin Yan realize the importance of preparation. Let's go out for a walk after the rainy season has passed. Lin Yan decided that after the rainy season, he would take a few core members outside the wall to practice. Simulation is of little use to everyone. The improvement of the strength of Levi and the others has reached a bottleneck. It is time for the hunter group to conduct Titan hunting training. After making a decision, Lin Yan frowned slightly. He is going to make some necessary preparations for this expedition. In torrential rain, a petite figure staggered and ran in the rain. It doesn't seem to care about the heavy rain in the sky at all. 40th lap. Krista, who was running in the rain, stopped. Her whole body was already wet by the rain. Run 40 laps. Krista felt her legs were burning like fire. She opened her small mouth slightly, leaning on a wall, panting. 1 day ago, Mikasa had been transferred to the core team because of his excellent performance in the training assessment. And Krista is still in the novice training camp, continuing basic training. Therefore, Krista wants to train hard and enter the core team early. This way, not only can I train with Mikasa, but I can also see Lin Yan every day. Krista, who is ignored by her family, likes to stay with Lin Yan very much. She still remembers the clear look in Lin Yan's eyes when she first met Lin Yan. No disgust, no indifference, calm and heartwarming. Slightly gasping for breath, feeling her physical strength regained a bit, Krista took advantage of the heavy rain and walked towards her manor. Inside the manor, greenery surrounds a huge castle with igloos. A group of servants beat the locusts on the green trees around the castle with bamboo poles in the heavy rain, regardless of the torrential rain in the sky. In the castle, inside a luxurious room, a huge gilded chandelier hangs from the roof, and a dark red thick carpet engraved with exquisite patterns covers the entire room. The walls are covered with all kinds of oil paintings with superb painters. All kinds of gold and silverware in the house can be seen everywhere. Beep beep beep. Inside the fireplace, the pine wood was beeping and beeping, with golden flames flickering, and the fragrance of pine wood was looming. The whole room is warm, dry and comfortable. A richly dressed old woman holds a black cat in her arms and holds a fine china in her hand. Inside is the dessert that the kitchen just delivered. Rista is back? I just came back, and I seem to be drenched in water. The old woman took a sip of the dessert with a delicate silver spoon, looked at the waiting servant, and asked about Krista's situation. As Krista's grandmother, she has an indescribable disgust for Krista, an accidental product. What was supposed to be a good marriage turned into a royal scandal because Krista's mother became pregnant out of wedlock, and a good thing turned into a bad thing. Let her clean up the bugs in the yard tonight. Running outside every day, I don't know what I'm doing. Hearing what the lady said, the waiting servant nodded and left the room. The third floor of the castle. Inside a very narrow and shabby room. A lamp, a bed. Other than that, nothing else. After changing her clothes, Krista sat on the bed and wrapped herself in a quilt. She was cold from the rain just now. Holding a plate, Krista slowly ate the cold sweet potatoes inside. Although Krista has already eaten food in the Hunter Group farm. But she still didn't dislike the sweet potato on the plate in front of her. Appreciate the food. It was a habit developed by Krista, who was often hungry since she was a child. January 16th, snow appeared in front of my window. On February 15th, sunny, I met a very nice big brother. July 17th, sunny, I want to be like Lin Yan Big Brother. August 11th, rain, the candies left by Lin Yan Big Brother are delicious. Krista took out a wooden box from under the bed, and carefully took out a thick book from it. Every time something happy happens, Krista will write it down in the notebook. Most of the few records are related to Lin Yan. Whenever Krista feels sad, she opens the diary. Krista, the master asked you to clean up the bugs in the yard. Just as Krista was flipping through the diary with a smile on her face, a maid rudely pushed open the door of her room from outside. There was no respect in the tone. Did Grandma really say that? Hearing the maid's words, the sweet smile on Krista's face gradually disappeared. There was disappointment in her pale blue eyes. Disappointment to the family. I see. Looking out of the window, there was still heavy rain, and the flashing thunder in the sky. The coolness in Krista's heart was stronger than that in her body. Soon, night fell to the earth. Rumble. The rain in the sky was still falling, and the sky was filled with lightning and thunder, and the bone-chilling coolness was accompanied by a violent wind. A carriage with a kerosene lamp was driving slowly on the road. In the carriage, a middle-aged man in a raincoat with a messy beard was holding the reins. He took a sip of wine and looked at the brightly lit castle in the distance. He was Kenny, who had just arrived in the Northern Territory. The heavy rain slowed Kenny's arrival for a few days. Call. Parking the carriage on the side of the road, Kenny slowly walked into the carriage. Trim the beard, put on a clean dress, shirt, and a tall hat. After a while, Kenny changed from an ordinary groom to an aristocratic gentleman. Kang. With the long knife sheathed, Kenny the throat slitter disappeared into the night with a big black umbrella. On the promenade in front of the castle, the locust corpses that were knocked down by the heavy rain fell into a thick layer, and many were still wriggling and struggling. Swish swish. Wearing an apron, Krista struggled to clean up the locust carcasses in the corridor, and it was difficult for her to lift her hands. Under the light of the castle, Krista's face was pale. Almost no blood can be seen. Now she is extremely weak. Are you still cleaning at this late hour? Kenny held an umbrella and entered the castle. His attire successfully fooled the guards at the manor at the entrance. Approaching the castle, Kenny didn't pay much attention to the girl cleaning the corridor. In the eyes of nobles, a maid like this is no different from the cats and dogs they raise. Is that person a visitor? Krista looked at Kenny, who entered the castle under an umbrella from a distance, and she didn't pay much attention to it. It hurts a lot. Krista felt like her head was about to explode, and she knew she had a fever. Rumble. A flash of thunder flashed, illuminating the sky again. In the Hunter Group farm, Lin Yan is debugging his three-dimensional mobile device in the warm wooden house. After Lin Yan's modification, this three-dimensional mobile device is more convenient to use than before, and it is more in line with Lin Yan's own attack style. Hearing the thunder outside, Lin Yan stood up and was about to close the window. Phew. Boom. Outside the window, Lin Yan saw a red flash. That direction is Krista's home, inside the castle. The smell of blood permeated the entire castle. One after another, the corpses were lying in a pool of blood. Without exception, all of them had their throats cut to death. Are they all dead? In the castle hall, Lin Yan quickly shuttled from room to room looking for it. Looking at one corpse after another, Krista was still nowhere to be found. Why are you here? Until Lin Yan was about to leave, to pursue the carriage that was leaving quickly when he just came. Lin Yan took a casual glance and saw Krista lying on the outside corner of the castle holding a cleaning tool. Who is the other party, and what is he going to do? Lin Yan quickly left with Krista on his back. He didn't pay any attention to the people who had their throats cut to death in the manner. The life and death of these people has nothing to do with him. Seeing the wounds on the throats of the people who were killed, Lin Yan thought of one person. Cutthroat Kenny Ackerman. But Lin Yan wondered why Kenny Ackerman didn't attack Krista. Did he kill the wrong person? Thinking of this, Lin Yan couldn't help shaking his head. The possibility is very small. Although Lin Yan already knew that Kenny might appear, but where and how did he appear? Lin Yan had no idea. For some reasons, the development of the plot in this world has begun to deviate from the original. Feeling Krista's hot forehead, Lin Yan took Krista away quickly and went to the pharmacy. I didn't chase after the carriage that quickly disappeared into the rainy night in the distance. Jingle bell. A carriage was walking slowly on the path in the field. The kerosene lamps on the carriage cast a dim light in the dark night. The wooden box inside the carriage behind Kenny was constantly being opened with the bumps. From time to time, terrified eyes or bloody scalps appeared from the gaps in the wooden box. Just entered the castle, not long. Kenny fought with the guards in the castle. Because the signal flare was triggered, the garrison troops might arrive at any time, so Kenny had to quickly kill the people in the castle. Leave quickly. After all, this is an assassination, and it cannot be seen. The fewer people who know about it, the better. If you don't hear someone riding a horse, come quickly. Kenny really wanted to make up for the little maid he saw when he entered the castle. After all, it was one of the people who saw him enter the castle. But Kenny didn't care, a little maid was harmless. Half a month later, after entering September. The weather doesn't feel hot at all. Even at noon, the sun in the sky is much softer than in summer. A worm emerged from the soil. It looked around, looking for some food. Suddenly, two big hands pinched it one after the other, and the bug was instantly split into two halves. This is what I found. Obviously I saw it first. In the farmland, two refugees quarreled over a bug and ended up fighting together. Such things can be seen everywhere. On the country road, there are people with disheveled faces everywhere, looking for food in the fields. Some of them are farmers in the pioneering land, and some are people who came to flee the town because of the famine and could not afford food. This time the locust plague completely wiped out the food harvest in the northern and even some southern regions. Inside the hunter group's farm, it was a different scene. The hunter group, who had already harvested the grain, was idle. Everyone is now digging the land in the farm every day. Then complete the daily training and inspect the farm. Compared with the previous busyness, they are more like farmers enjoying delicious food at home after the harvest. Levi is on horseback, patrolling around. Although the hunter group farm has been completely harvested. But from time to time, someone still thinks about the things in the farm. And what Levi has to do is to cut off the hand reaching out to the hunter group. During this time, many people who sneaked in at night were buried in the soil. Dang dang, suddenly Levi heard the sound of 3 bells ringing, which was the sound of the core meeting of the hunter group. With the development of these years, various codes gradually appeared within the hunter group. And signal transmission methods. These bells are but one of them. Get ready for the handover in a few days. Our hunting operation will start in 10 days. Seeing that Levi, Isabel, and Fran were all in place, Lin Yan stated the purpose of convening everyone this time. While the farm is not busy, Lin Yan is going to bring a few people to see Titan. Okay, boss. The day is finally here. Both Levi and Fran had some excitement in their eyes. Because they grew up next to Lin Yan, the two feared the Titan. Not as strongly as others in the wall. On the contrary, there is a feeling of desire to hunt and kill Titans. But Isabel doesn't want to fight like Levi and Fran. Now her mind is full of how to develop the hunter farm well and provide Lin Yan with enough food. Help Lin Yan manage the big family of hunters well. In the past, the logistical operation of the hunter group was in the hands of Lin Yan. Isabel didn't know how much the hunter group consumed. But after she was in charge of the logistics of the entire hunter group, Isabel knew that Lin Yan had not been easy these years. Just like this time. Outside is full of homeless people wandering around without food. Even if you have money, you can't buy food. But on the Hunter Group farm, not only the barn is full of food. There are chickens and ducks everywhere, except for some things that cannot be produced by themselves. The Hunter Group farm is completely isolated from the outside world and self-sufficient. Therefore, although the famine was serious this time, it did not affect the Hunter Group at all. Boss, I want to stay. Hearing Isabel's words, Lin Yan nodded slightly. He was about to tell Isabel about letting her stay. Unexpectedly, Isabel proposed it. Before that, Isabel had been clamoring to kill the Titan with him. A year later, Isabel completely changed his mind. Compared to before, Isabel has matured a lot. Lin Yan didn't intend to take too many people out this time. Too many people, too many goals, and now is a special time. There needs to be armed forces on the farm, stay behind. Therefore, Lin Yan plans to bring 5 people there this time. In addition to Levi and Fran, choose 2 more. Only actual combat can quickly improve the strength of everyone. Only then can the Hunter Group be able to do a job with ease when encountering Titans in the future. Lin Yan explained some more things, and this small meeting is considered to be over. After explaining the matter, Lin Yan looked at the 3 people who left quickly, and nodded slightly. After years of training, the 3 of them are completely able to stand alone. Many things, as long as Lin Yan raises them, they will be done very well. Sky. A silver-gray pigeon flitted past a huge old tree. Enter a remote location on the hunter's farm. Its flapping wings swept off the golden leaves from the ancient trees. The leaves fell from the tree and slid down a huge iron bell. Is it already autumn? Krista looked at the golden leaves falling in her hands. She was a little depressed. Half a month ago, after waking up from a coma with a fever, she found that the castle she was in had been slaughtered. In fact, regarding the deaths of these family members, Krista found that she was not as sad as she imagined. This is probably because these people are only her relatives in name. Originally, Krista wanted to find a reason to be sad for them. But she thought about it for a long time, but she still couldn't find it. In her memory, it was all her family's indifference to her. Congratulations on passing the core member exam. Next to Krista, Mikasa's tone was flat. The words of congratulations came out of her mouth, but it was as flat as a statement of facts. But Krista could hear the sincerity in Mikasa's plain tone. Compared to other people, Mikasa talked a lot with himself. Can you give me the task of ringing the bell in the future? No, don't think about it. Why? It's a secret. Krista looked up at the big clock above their heads. As a newcomer to the core team, there will be a daily job of his own. Mikasa's new job is to ring the bell for the Hunter Group, such as the core high-level aggregation order just now. Krista is very interested in the work of ringing the bell. When Mikasa heard Krista's request, she refused decisively. Every time she rang the bell, she could always think of Lin Yan helping her tie the rope. Although it is a small thing, it is a beautiful memory that Mikasa cherishes very much. Hearing Mikasa's reasons for rejecting her, Krista couldn't help being dumbfounded. She had said the same thing before. Sitting under the big tree, Krista turned her head to Mikasa and asked mysteriously. Do you like Lin Yan, big brother? I didn't, I won't talk to you anymore. Hear Krista's words. Mikasa, who was sitting under the big tree and was wiping the dagger earnestly, blushed instantly. She hung the dagger on her waist in a panic, and ran away quickly. Krista watched as Mikasa ran away blushing. The golden leaf in her hand slipped to the ground. I won't lose, stinky Mikasa. After a moment of silence, Krista picked up the leaves on the ground, and she decided to run another 20 laps today. In her world, like Mikasa, Lin Yan is the only light that can be seen. So Krista's heart suddenly rose. A wave of jealousy. The other side of the farm. A remote place. Lin Yan grabbed a handful of wheat for the pigeons from the bag, and patted the pigeons on the back as a sign of encouragement. He took off the special thin bamboo tube from the pigeon's leg, and took out a small note from inside. The famine in the kingdom is serious, and the major councillors proposed to raise taxes to better fight against Titan. The grain collection plan is completed, and the new base in Wangdu Underground Street is operating normally. Looking at the news from the members of the Hunter Group in the capital stronghold, Lin Yan couldn't see any expression on his face. The famine raised taxes instead, which is indeed in line with the behavior of the rulers inside the wall. With limited resources, the more people die, the more resources they can allocate. So no nobles cared about how many people died in this famine. The capital hoarded a large amount of grain and food. No matter how severe the famine was, it would not affect their lives. As for raising taxes, Lin Yan knows it without thinking. It is likely that many noble farmers want to use this to force those farmers to go bankrupt, so as to annex the land of these farmers. Many congressmen are big landowners themselves, and a large number of farms are in their hands. So they are proposing to raise taxes, purely for their own benefit, not to fight against Titan. It's a cannibalistic world indeed. Lin Yan didn't take care of too much. He has limited ability and just wants to take care of himself and the forces he manages. Lin Yan can't do such a stupid thing as feeding those refugees with the food accumulated by his own men with sweat and blood. After reading the information, Lin Yan opened the system panel. System panel host. Lin Yan current world. Attack on Titan. Physique. 9, 6.5 meters scaleless Titan level. Points. 3, 13%, skills. Fighting LV6, forging LV5, stereo mobile device manipulation LV1, brewing LV2, cooking LV1. In the past 4 months, Lin Yan has accumulated 3 points again. But he didn't choose to use it, because Lin Yan hasn't considered where to add these points. After thinking for a while, Lin Yan began to add points. System. Add some 3-dimensional mobile device control. After Lin Yan chose the skill to add points to, the points were deducted by 2 points, and the system sounded immediately. Ding. Congratulations to the host. The operation of the 3-dimensional mobile device has been upgraded to LV2, and I have gained 20 years of experience in operating the 3-dimensional mobile device. After adding points, a huge amount of information flooded into Lin Yan's brain again. Lin Yan can clearly feel that his 3-dimensional mobile device manipulation technology has reached a new level. If he now fights against the strange-looking Titan again, Lin Yan is confident that he can compress the time to half of the previous one. System. Add some physique. Immediately Lin Yan chose to add points again. Without any hesitation, he added the remaining 1 point to his physique. If skills belong to software, then physique belongs to hardware. After a long period of exploration, Lin Yan found out. For the same skill, at the same level, for example, LV1, the stronger the physique, the stronger the power of the skill. It's like wrestling. At the same level of LV6 and 8 points of physique, it takes Lin Yan 20 seconds to kill an ordinary Titan. And at 9 points of physique, he may only need 15 seconds. Therefore, Lin Yan understands that skills may help him a lot in the early stage, but physique is the most profitable choice in the long run. Ding. Congratulations to the host. The physique points have reached 10, and the physique has reached the 8-meter level strange species Titan level. The moment the system sound sounded, Lin Yan's body began to change. Kakaka. Lin Yan's bones have become even harder. If his bones were made of hard iron wood before, they have completely turned into steel at this moment. From head to toe, the 206 bones were all strengthened, making a metal-like sound. Lin Yan's blood vessels became thicker, and the 639 muscles in his body became tighter, like leather armor. In addition, a membrane around the heart begins to grow, covering the entire heart, and other important organs also grow membranes. Slightly clenching his fist, Lin Yan's fist began to emit a faint steam, as if a storm of power surged from his body, and the surrounding grass was blown down. Boom. Feel the surging power of lifting. Lin Yan clenched his fist emitting steam, and punched a huge 2-meter-high stone in the yard. The moment Lin Yan's fist hit the stone, a huge explosion sounded, and the horses eating forage on the hunter group's farm were startled and ran around. The spider web-like cracks on the stone quickly spread, and the stone in front of Lin Yan shattered. Lin Yan is confident that if he encounters those ordinary titans, he can blow the heads of those unscaled titans with his fist. Outside the hunter group farm. Gugu. A few ragged wanderers looked into the hunter group's farm. Their eyes were fixed on the flocks of chickens and ducks in the Nyen farm, and they swallowed wildly. How about we sneak in and catch some ducks? You want to die? Those patrolling people are not easy to mess with at first sight. I have a way, you just need to cooperate with me for a while. Among the homeless people, an old farmer with narrow eyes looked at the homeless people around him and began to talk about his methods. After hearing his method, the eyes of the people around him brightened, and they quickly left. Why does your farmland have a good harvest? My farmland is being eaten up by bugs. The old farmer's name was Nobelin, and he was one of the people who used to ridicule the hunter group for wasting their energy in farming. Nobiling's farmland is separated from Lin Yan's hunter farm by a small river. But they are completely different. One had a bumper harvest, and the other was eaten up by locusts. If the farmland has no harvest and cannot pay the tax, the land of Nobelin will be recycled in auction to offset the tax. Lin Yan's huge harvest made him mad with jealousy. Nobiling attributed all this to Lin Yan's good luck, lamenting the injustice of fate to him. If it gets messy, the horse will be mine. Nobiling focused on a horse on the farm, as long as he could steal the horse. That's enough money for tax deductions. Maybe it's not impossible to add another fertile field. Small town of Sakana. The once bustling town is now silent. Buzz buzz. A black fly was flying around, looking for the source of the stench in the air. After passing through the streets, it flew into a small dark wooden building. It fell on a pale little hand. Is it cooked? Cook it for a while, and you can eat it right away. Two men with green eyes stared at the cooking things in the pot and swallowed their saliva. For the past 10 days, they had eaten everything they could eat, and hunger had completely distorted their humanity. Bread has been distributed, and the Hunter farm has distributed bread to the refugees. Suddenly, voices sounded one after another on the street, and the two turned their heads and ran out when they heard the voice. Time flies. The news seemed to have wings and spread farther and farther. Driven by some people, the flow of homeless people converged towards the Hunter farm. Overnight. Blink of an eye to the next day. Thick fog shrouded the northern land, and it was difficult to see people at an arm's length. Levi stood on the watchtower of the Hunter Group farm, his face was full of gloom. One by one in the dense fog, people like walking corpses gradually gathered towards the gate of the Hunter Group. In a short time, thousands of people have gathered at the gate. Order to go down, let everyone wait in the school grounds. Levi looked at Fran on the side, and he jumped down to the ground, ready to report the situation to Lin Yan. How to deal with these people, he needs to ask Lin Yan for instructions. At the gate of the Hunter Group, Isabel took some members of the Hunter Group and stood guard at the door. We want bread, get out the bread quickly. Yes, take it out, take out the bread quickly. The bustling refugees shouted loudly, pushing towards the gate of the Hunter Group's farm. In front of the crowd, Nobelin stirred up the atmosphere of the crowd intentionally or unintentionally. From time to time, his eyes looked towards the stables of the Hunter Group. We don't have the bread you want here. If you don't leave, I won't be polite. Isabel's face was frosty, and she was trembling with anger at the words of the many refugees in front of her. Mikasa was also watching, her hand already on the dagger at her waist. For Mikasa, who has long regarded the Hunter Group as his home, the many refugees in front of him are like robbers. So for these refugees, Mikasa has no sympathetic thoughts. Krista stood next to Mikasa, she was a little nervous. Trapped in the manor since she was a child, it was the first time she saw so many strangers. Especially the greedy, green eyes of the many refugees in front of her made her extremely uneasy. Although Krista was terrified, she looked at Mikasa's petite but still upright body beside her. A surge of courage surged in Krista's heart, and she also took a step forward. Looking at the refugees rushing in front of the farm frantically. She had a cold face, trying to appear fierce. Hunter's farm entrance. More than 20 burly members of the Hunter Group formed a human wall, firmly resisting the many refugees who squeezed inside. They are the first orphans who grew up with Lin Yan from Wangdu Underground Street. For them, the safety of the Hunter Group and Lin Yan is something they can protect with their lives. However, despite their burly stature, they are like a lone boat floating in the sea in front of thousands of refugees. Crumbling to the point of being squeezed. If it wasn't for Lin Yan's orders who were still sleeping. Bringing unnecessary trouble to Lin Yan, the knives in their waists have already been drawn out. We have a lot of people, don't be afraid, they have too much food to eat. Punch in, rush in, and there's delicious bread, milk, and even meat on the farm. The lord of the Hunter farm is a black-hearted businessman. Everyone went in and killed him, killed the bad guys, and distributed the gold coins. In the crowd, those who had the same idea as Nobelin started pushing and inciting them. Their words released the demons in the hearts of the hungry and irrational refugees. Everyone frantically squeezed into the farm. Some people even grabbed the stones on the ground and threw them at the members of the Hunter Group who resisted them. He raised his fist and began to attack the members of the Hunter Group who were standing in front of everyone. Bang bang bang. In the chaos, the members of the Hunter Group at the front were hit by the fists of the refugees and hit their foreheads with rocks. Some people's heads were even broken by refugees, and blood flowed from their heads. The scene is getting more and more chaotic. Bang. Captain Hualin, they are too bullying, I will kill them. Be patient, no one is allowed to do anything without the order of the leader. Don't cause trouble for the leader, kill them, it will cause trouble. As soon as the burly member of the hunter group, X, pulled out his knife, he was firmly held down by the team leader Huolin next to him. Hearing Huo Lin's words and seeing the blood on Huo Lin's face, X put the knife into the scabbard unwillingly. X's anger was suppressed, and he continued to resist the thousands of refugees who were throwing stones at them unwillingly. Everyone who has the same idea as X. In this way, he dispelled the idea of killing the refugees in front of him. They didn't want to cause trouble for Lin Yan. Lin Yan because they already bear the name of wanted criminals. How much hard work did Lin Yan put in for the hunters to get to where they are today? As the people who grew up with Lin Yan, they know it best. Although Lin Yan was as cruel as a devil when he was training them. But in private, Lin Yan even clearly remembered all of their birthdays and their hobbies. So after hearing Huo Lin's words, they usually performed missions outside and killed all directions, like demon gods. They were silent. For Lin Yan, they can endure anything, even losing their lives. Woo. How could they do this? Krista looked at Mikasa, whose head was bleeding from being hit by a rock, and she burst into tears in an instant. As her only friend, Mikasa is Krista's closest person in this world besides Lin Yan. I'm going to kill them. Mikasa held the dagger in her hand and was hugged tightly by Isabel, her feet kicking wildly. The refugees who were members of the hunter group were staring at the impact outside. She didn't get hit on her head. Instead, he heard the refugees slander Lin Yan as a black-hearted businessman and wanted to beat Lin Yan to death. This made Mikasa, who had always been calm, run away in an instant. If she hadn't been hugged by Elizabeth, she would have rushed up. In front of the hunter group's farm, the members of the hunter group struggled to support themselves. There were more and more refugees, and their bodies were shaken by the impact. Seeing it is about to be unbearable, let them in. Suddenly, a loud voice sounded in everyone's ears. In the hunter group's farm, a tall boy with a tough face walked out slowly. Hearing Lin Yan's words, everyone was taken aback. They didn't expect that Lin Yan would choose to let these refugees into the farm. However, everyone in the hunter group was suspicious and unwilling, but they still obeyed Lin Yan's order without hesitation. Come on. The black-hearted farmer succumbs. The grain and livestock in the farm are ours. Thousands of refugees rushed in, frantically rushing towards the hunter group's farm shrouded in mist. Shrouded in mist, these people seemed to have turned into demons, and the ugliness of human nature was vividly interpreted. Why did you get hurt again? Lin Yan walked to Mikasa's side, looked at Mikasa's broken forehead, and frowned slightly. He looked at Mikasa's forehead, inspecting the wound carefully, paying no attention to the refugees who rushed into the farm. Big brother. They slandered you. Hearing Lin Yan's words, and feeling the caring tone in Lin Yan's words, Mikasa's tears fell down in a flash. She pointed at the refugees who rushed into the farm frantically. The dagger in her hand was pinched tightly. Wait for me here. Hearing Mikasa's words, Lin Yan patted Mikasa's shoulder and made Mikasa stand still and wait. Then he stood up and looked at the refugees who were still pouring into the farm in the distance. Then Lin Yan walked to the gate of the farm, looked at the members of the hunter group who bowed their heads because they were not reconciled, and said in a flat tone without any emotion. Next, I don't want to see a living person here. Hearing Lin Yan's words, the members of the hunter group suddenly raised their heads, and bloodthirsty rays of light shone from their eyes. It was as if a terrifying beast had awakened. Do those stationed in the core only watch the fun? Lin Yan looked at a group of soldiers riding horses in the distance, and saw the refugees rushing into the farm, but the soldiers looked like they were watching the excitement, without any expression on his face. Lin Yan has long been accustomed to such things. The farmer has the right to deal with anyone who breaks into the farm without permission. In addition, it would be more convenient to kill these refugees by letting them enter the farm. Lin Yan walked to the middle of the hunter regiment's school field. Every time he took a step, Lin Yan's power grew stronger, and after a while Lin Yan's body began to emit a thick white mist. Immediately Lin Yan pulled out his hands. Huge power was transmitted from his palm to the flagpole in front of him. Click. Under Lin Yan's tremendous strength, with a click, the solid ground cracked instantly, and a solid flagpole as thick as a bucket broke through the ground. The dirt on the flagpole was shot out. Looking at the iron bump the size of a millstone at the bottom of the thick flagpole, Lin Yan nodded in satisfaction. Hurrah! Holding one end of the flagpole, Lin Yan dragged the flagpole more than 10 meters long and rushed into the crowd of refugees. The flagpole weighing nearly 1,000 caddies was like a toy in Lin Yan's hands, and he waved it vigorously. Every blow of Lin Yan seemed to pierce the air, and the surrounding fog stirred up a whirlwind under the high-speed hitting of the iron rod, and the fog surged. Click. A refugee caught by Lin Yan was instantly shot out like a cannonball. The moment he came into contact with the iron lump, his chest cavity sank, bones protruded from his back, and his body turned into a bow. Puff. At the same time, a mouthful of black blood spurted out from the refugee's mouth along with pieces of internal organs. On the path of his flying backwards, more than 10 refugees fleeing in a panic were thrown out by him. Bang bang bang. The flagpole in Lin Yan's hand continued to wave, and every time he waved, more than a dozen refugees would be shot out like cannonballs by the huge force of the iron rod. The headshot of the person who was swept away was even more so. Their heads exploded like watermelons one by one. In a short time, dozens of people were piled up on the ground with the mutilated corpses beaten to death by Lin Yan. Boss is too fierce. Is this still the power that humans can have? Levi and Fran rode their horses and killed the fleeing refugees. When they saw Lin Yan's movements in the field, they pulled the reins and froze in place. Especially Levi, who was so surprised that he almost lost his grip on the reins. In order to improve Levi's fighting skills, Lin Yan would personally feed him moves every now and then. Not long ago, Levi was also happy for a few days that he could persist under Lin Yan for a longer time. But now seeing Lin Yan holding a solid steel flagpole and waving it, Levi couldn't help showing a wry smile. In the past, Levi always felt that Lin Yan was good at skills. But now it seems that Lin Yan's strength is also not comparable to that of ordinary people. Run, the devil is coming. Let me go, please. In the dense fog, the hunters were like killing gods. The knives in their hands were constantly harvesting the lives of the refugees in front of them. Just now, the refugees who were excited to fight and kill the hunters were now crying, shouting, and wanting to leave. The sound of crying and begging for mercy was as desolate as the sound of killing a pig. Poochie. 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 There is always only one answer to them, and that is a sharp knife. The members of the hunter group, the sound of the knife falling into the flesh became the most beautiful melody in the farm. Boom. Boom. Please let me go, we are neighbors. Nobelin knelt in front of Lin Yan and kowtowed frantically, as if he wanted to knock out his brains, expressing his remorse to Lin Yan. As Lin Yan's neighbor, Nobelin can often see Lin Yan riding a horse to inspect the farm with a kind face. It has been almost a year since Lin Yan came here, and Nobelin has never heard any news of any dispute between Lin Yan and others. In the pioneering area, where quarrels may often occur over trivial matters, Lin Yan is simply a good old man. In addition, Lin Yan, a farmer who has hundreds of teenagers farming for him, is also very low-key. I usually just stay and farm in the farm, and rarely communicate with the outside world. But now Nobelin understands how terrifying this group of seemingly benign and temperless people are. They are good at farming, and they are even more good at killing people. In Nobelin's life, there were two things he regretted the most. One was coming to this cruel world, and the second was walking into the hunter's farm. Boom. Lin Yan didn't have the slightest interest in listening to nonsense, and just kicked the guy in front of him hard. A huge force was transmitted from Lin Yan's feet to Nobelin's head in an instant. Immediately afterwards, Nuo Bailan's head was under the great force of Lin Yan, pulling Nuo Bailan's neck, bringing out the trachea and a large number of internal organs, and was instantly kicked out. The head shot out, hit a distant stone, and burst open instantly. The headless corpse remained kneeling on the ground, with blood spurting out. Time is passing by every minute and every second. The sun in the sky slowly rose, dispelling the fog that shrouded the earth. The scene on the ground became clearer, outside the hunter group farm. Shea Wellman of the Garrison Corps frowned slightly as he looked in the direction of the Hunter Corps farm. This time he was investigating the extermination of dozens of people in a manner in this area. It was not his job to prevent refugees from raiding farms. Case Wellman is a stubborn, almost rigid person who never cares about things beyond the scope of his duties. Therefore, even if he heard cries coming from the dense fog, he just listened without taking any other actions. In addition, he only brought a dozen people this time, and he didn't want to be torn to pieces by the rioting refugees. Why did the refugees start running outside? That terrified look. What did they encounter? Seeing the refugees who had been rushing towards the farm, they gradually turned their heads and ran back. The wild eyes of the refugees turned into panic. This huge change made Chiz curious. But before he was curious for too long, he had the answer. Under the sun's rays, the dense fog quickly dissipated. A dark red hill appeared in front of Cheese. It was a hill about 3 stories high. Under the sunlight, pairs of terrified eyes, as well as various arms, legs, and internal organs were piled up together. This. Even though Chiz had seen a lot in the garrison corps, it was the first time he had seen such a dense accumulation of corpses. Keys's hand on the horse's rein began to tremble. In front of the corpse mountain, the morning sun shone on a black-haired boy, and in the red light, the boy stood quietly. There is no unnecessary action, but standing quietly like this also made Chiz Wellman feel terrified. It seemed that standing on the square was not a human being, but a beast. Team. Captain, shall we go in and check? A soldier with trembling legs next to Cheese looked at Cheese and stammered. So many people have died, whether it is within their purview or not, they should be asked. Kays was silent when he heard what the soldier said, not knowing how to answer. The fear in his heart made it difficult for him to say the words to check. But as the captain, he couldn't lose his majesty in front of his subordinates. On the square of the Hunter Group's farm, Lin Yan watched the members of the Hunter Group dispose of the corpses. It is a big deal if the corpses are not handled properly. It's him. The fog cleared, and Lin Yan saw the people stationed in the regiment in the distance. These people had been indifferent when the refugees attacked the farm before. One of them was a man with a height of nearly 2 meters and a head of brown hair, which looked exceptionally different. With such obvious features, Lin Yan quickly recognized this man. Keys Wellman, garrison's captain in the garrison regiment. Lead garrison to surround Aren, Mikasa and Armin immediately after Aren's titanization was known to humans. And question whether Aren is a human or a titan. Afterwards Armin negotiated with him, but he gave up thinking because of fear. When he hesitated at last, he was stopped by Pixis, who rushed over. Keys Wellman is stubborn, rigid and unusually resistant to the unknown. It's completely antique style. So Lin Yan was very impressed with this guy. However, Lin Yan has no intention of talking to the other party, nor does he want to have any intersection with Cheese. But Cheese doesn't think so, or his position determines, he can't think so. Kays pulled the horse and walked into the hunter's farm. Even if it is scared to death. But Kays Wellman still walked in front of Lin Yan. He pulled himself together, straightened his back and looked at Lin Yan. Asked. May I ask if you can explain your actions? I killed the people who broke into my farm and tried to take my property. Is this explanation satisfactory? Seeing Cheesy walking in front of him, Lin Yan gave him a slight look, and then answered his question calmly. Lin Yan hasn't heard such an official question for a long time. Hearing Lin Yan's answer, Cheese was stunned. Lin Yan's answer made him not know how to refute. Lin Yan is right, those refugees did break into private territory. According to the laws of the kingdom, there is nothing wrong with Lin Yan's approach. But Kays didn't want to just let things go hastily. He always felt that Lin Yan was taking advantage of loopholes in the law to deliberately lure those refugees into rushing into his farm, and then kill them. You are making unreasonable words, please go back with me and accept the investigation. So Cheesy raised his voice, trying to suppress Lin Yan by speaking loudly. With this, he won back a victory. This is how he dealt with those difficult gangsters in the past. Hearing Cheese's words, Lin Yan's eyes turned cold. Unaffected by Cheetsy's voice at all, Lin Yan stared at Cheesy, tit for tat. Then you mean that those refugees came to rob me? I should just get caught like that. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Cheese was stunned for a moment, speechless, his face flushed red. Seeing Cheetsy's appearance, Lin Yan said again. Am I paying taxes to keep a bunch of barking dogs? When those refugees rushed into the farm, why didn't you step forward and question them? Lin Yan's words were like a heavy hammer hitting Cheetsy's body one after another. With each question, Keys took a step back. Unknowingly, after Lin Yan finished asking, Cheese had already withdrawn far away. The whole person is also like a deflated ball, with his mouth open and unable to speak. Me, let's go. Kays held back for a long time, unable to think of a reason to refute. The powerful aura on Lin Yan made him speechless. Knowing that he was wrong, he turned his head and left, not wanting to leave any more troubles. Seeing Kays Wellman leave, Lin Yan frowned slightly. Although due to several walls, the speed of information transmission in this world is surprisingly slow. But he was also wanted by the military police regiment in the capital. Lin Yan is considering whether to kill Cheesy. However, after thinking about it for a while, Lin Yan felt relieved. So what if he was recognized? Now his strength, as well as the strength of everyone in the hunter group, is no longer what it was when he was in the underground street. Lin Yan has the confidence to face the enemy who dares to attack. Moreover, this world is about to become a chaotic world. If nothing else, the colossal titan will appear within the walls of Maria in a few months. At that time, everyone will be in danger, and it will be difficult to survive, let alone pay attention to him. Lin Yan's idea is very simple. That is to manage your own power well, accumulate your own strength, and live well in this world. However, if someone doesn't open their eyes, he doesn't mind, and sends the other person away from this cruel world. 7 days later. Since the massacre at the hunter farm, not a single refugee has appeared on the hunter farm. Within a radius of 10 miles of the hunter's farm, it seems to have become a forbidden area. Even the local people are unwilling to approach the hunter farm at will if it is not necessary. In the circle of refugees, Hunter Farm has gradually gained the title of Devil's Nest. As the weather gets colder, the famine continues. King Capital. The drizzle in the sky continued to fall, and the temperature was pitifully low. Tens of thousands of crows are entrenched in the sky, and the blackness makes a shadow appear invisible in the heart. A lot of crows, and a lot of people died, right? According to the military police regiment, 5,000 bodies were shipped out today. This famine has killed 100,000 people, and we will be recruiting troops in January. Pixis uncapped the hip flask and took a sip of the wine. This year, not only the Garrison Corps suffered heavy losses, but the Survey Corps also suffered great losses. The army urgently needs a large number of teenagers to enter. But this year a famine broke out, and 100,000 people starved to death. And it's only autumn now, and when winter comes in a few months, I'm afraid more people will die. Therefore, Pixis began to worry about recruiting troops. Actually, the commander doesn't need to worry. The king has already issued a compulsory conscription order. Beside Pixis, Kays, who came back from the Northern Territory, said while taking out a conscription order that had just been issued. All residents over the age of 15 are within the scope of recruitment. Residents bring their own food, and protect the city wall in sections. After reading the content of the conscription order, Pixis felt a little complicated. He thought of more things than the king's brutality. After winter is the spring farming season, if these teenagers, young people are recruited by the army. Then when the time comes, who will plant the grain for the new year in spring? How the famine can end. In addition, because of the pest infestation, this year's grain harvest is almost complete. The 4 major armies are now having problems with basic supplies. Pixis came to the capital this time just to get more material support. Winter is coming, and the soldiers stationed at the border are still in single clothes. In addition, the pensions of many dead soldiers have not yet been issued. The entire legion is troubled both internally and externally. This upset Pixie. South of the walls of Mary. Sagansina district. The quiet streets are deserted, and many people choose to stay at home and lie in bed because of lack of food. This reduces food consumption. At the end of an alley, a little boy wearing a hat quickly walked into a wooden building. Dad, I'm back. There are more and more patients on the street. Irene, from today, you stay at home, it's too dangerous outside. Seeing Irene come in, Irene's father, Grisha, sighed. In the past few days, he has seen many people, all of whom have a very special disease. The source of the disease comes from the people who died because of the famine. There are more and more infectious diseases in the town. Hunter base after turning over the land inside the farm. In the past 7 days, everyone has been doing this high-intensity training, extreme training. No one dared to be lazy in this training, and no one dared to complain about the hard work of the training. For no other reason, it is entirely because Lin Yan himself organized the training. Run faster, run faster. Mikasa, speed up and don't stop. Krista, the last one has no food. Lin Yan will go north in a few days, so Lin Yan arranged this extreme training for everyone. In the past 7 days, the training tasks assigned by Lin Yan have become heavier every day. Boss, the matter of handover has been dealt with. All the items needed for this operation are also brought. Levi walked to Lin Yan's side and reported the situation. As early as half a month ago, the plan to hunt the Titan had already been prepared, and now that many things have been dealt with, all preparations have been completed. Hearing Levi's words, Lin Yan nodded. Originally planned to leave in 3 days, Lin Yan decided to advance the time again. North of Wall Maria. There are a few thin clouds floating in the sky, like thin silk scarves. The eagle hovers in the sky, riding the thermal air from the ground at noon. It only needs to adjust its wings slightly to float in the sky. A gray rabbit with sloped feet is slowly looking for the few green grass in the grass on the ground. It is surrounded by 4 mountains, standing quietly. The rabbit stopped in front of a big mountain, looked up, and saw a pair of huge eyes. Whoosh! The frightened rabbit frowned instantly, jumped up from the spot, kicked the grass frantically on its 4 legs, and fled into the woods with a whoosh. Watching the rabbits running away in the distance, Deshaun closed his eyes, not interested in the running rabbits. Tuck tuck tuck. Suddenly, a figure on a horse rushed out of the woods. The 4 big mountains opened their eyes together. They are not big mountains, but 4 titans. Looking at the humans riding horses not far away, the eyes of the 4 titans all showed bloodthirsty light, like sharks smelling blood in the sea. Boom 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 boom. The 4 small building-like titans raised their feet, and rushed towards the human on the horse crazily. The ground vibrated under their door-sized feet, making a muffled thud thump thump. Every time the titan hits the ground will be trampled and cracked, and every time the titan hits the ground, it will shake the surrounding trees and drop a large number of leaves. Compared with their huge figures, the surrounding tall trees are like slightly taller weeds on the side of the road, and the highest can only reach the waist of these titans. The human on the horse is Levi, and he gallops into the woods on his horse. In front of the titan, Levi felt like a mouse being chased by humans, running away crazily. Boom. A huge boulder kicked by the titan flew towards it with the wind like a cannonball, and the high-speed friction between the boulder and the air made a roaring sound. The branches blocking the stone along the way were instantly smashed, and they were about to hit Levi's back. Click. A knife flashed in the air, and the stone was cut in half. Levi let out a sigh of relief when he saw the figure passing by above his head. Break. Levi no longer hesitated and immediately pressed the launch button, and instantly 2 thin black lines shot out and connected to the tall trees beside the forest path. Standing on a tall tree, Levi looked towards the direction where the titan was chasing. In the group of titans chasing after him in the arena, Fran manipulated the 3-dimensional mobile device to avoid the attacks of the titans. He shuttled back and forth between the titan's body, avoiding the titan's attacks again and again. Without any hesitation, Levi immediately ejected with the help of the 3-dimensional mobile device, and rushed to the position where the flange was. They don't have much time, and if other titans gather, they will be in danger. Big brother, it's been a minute. On a big tree. Mikasa and Lin Yan stood on the branches of the big tree, watching the situation of Levi and Fran in the distance. Lin Yan is handling a rabbit with a dagger in his hand. With 3 or 2 strokes of the dagger in his hand, he peeled off the rabbit's horse, and a small knife skillfully shaved the flesh without staining a drop of blood. Hearing Mikasa's words, Lin Yan cut off a piece of rabbit meat and stuffed it into his mouth, then cut off another piece of meat and handed it to Mikasa, thought for a while and said, "Eat it and call me in 2 minutes. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Mikasa nodded, took the raw meat that Lin Yan handed over, and began to chew, without any discomfort at all. These days they have run out of food brought out. Although I brought a lot of food when I came out this time, with Lin Yan, the food was just a drop in the bucket. Therefore, their food for the past few days is some hares, wild birds and the like." While eating the meat, Lin Yan began to pay attention to the situation in the venue. Levi and Fran have made great progress compared to the previous few days. Although it doesn't have the feeling of flowing clouds and water, at least it can effectively evade the attack of the Titan. Unlike the first time I saw Titan, I couldn't even escape rationally and calmly. Boom. Just as Levi escaped from the giant hand grabbed by the Titan, the big tree he was leaning on was slapped into pieces by the Titan. Although it's only been a little over a minute since the battle, Levi is already drenched in sweat. His and Fran's training mission is simple: to survive the Titan's attack. When he didn't meet Titan before, Levi was still confident and excited. But when he really fought against Titans for the first time, he understood how terrifying these Titans are. Although the one in front of him was just the most common Wugo Titan, he was also beaten and fled here and there. This made him have no concept of Levi, who had killed 3 Titans and a strange species by himself before Lin Yan. I deeply felt the gap between myself and Lin Yan. Cough. In a tree near Levi, Fran looks a little pale. He had just escaped a blow from the Titan, but was still touched, his chest was burning with pain, and he coughed violently. Big brother, it's 2 minutes. Mikasa, who was looking at the mechanical timer, looked at Lin Yan when the time was up, with a little nervousness in her voice. When Lin Yan heard Mikasa's words, he shot the flare in his hand instantly. Phew. Boom. Levi and Fran, who were fleeing in embarrassment during the siege of the Titan, heard the sound of the signal flare, and they both heaved a sigh of relief, and then pulled out the broad-bladed dagger at their waists, with excitement in their eyes. In order to improve their survivability, Lin Yan, at the beginning of the training, the two of them were not allowed to use the knife in their hands until their lives were in danger. Therefore, the two have always been able to avoid the attack of the Titan, unable to counterattack. Now that they heard Lin Yan's flare gun being triggered, they no longer had to dodge passively. Break. Break. Levi and Fran, press the fire button together. Attack towards the Titan that is chasing. Different from the passive avoidance before, holding the sharp weapon that Lin Yan tailored for them in their hands, the aura of the two of them changed drastically in an instant. The other side. The ground was violently bumped under the trample of the Titan. Standing on the branch of the big tree, Mikasa felt like someone was shaking the big tree. She felt that she might fall under the tree in the violent shaking at any time. Is this the power of the Titan? Mikasa nervously supported the trunk on one side, looking at the big tree in the distance that was constantly smashed into pieces by the Titan. Mikasa felt a little hurt. She subconsciously looked at Lin Yan. Chua, a skinned rabbit hanging from a branch. The knife in Lin Yan's hand is like a nimble fish swimming among the rabbit's skeletons. While walking, strips of flesh were quickly shaved off. In Mikasa's eyes, the raw meat that originally grew tightly on the rabbit's bones. In Lin Yan's hands, it was like meat that had been cooked for a long time and fell off naturally. It was as clean as glass, a naked rabbit skeleton, because the dagger in Lin Yan's hand quickly appeared. Looking at Lin Yan, who was quietly enjoying the rabbit meat, Mikasa had an illusion that now they are not in a dangerous area full of Titans. Instead, sit in a safe and quiet farm and enjoy delicious food. Mikasa's nervousness just now was completely calmed down by Lin Yan's actions. Calm down. Whenever and wherever, as long as Lin Yan is around, Mikasa will feel at home. Click click click. The tall trees in the distance were constantly broken. One is about 10 stories high. He has a bulging belly and eyes as big as a door panel. With a crooked bloody mouth and a turbid, foul-smelling mouth, the Wugo Titan rushed over from a distance. Big brother, Titan is here. Wait for me here. Looking at the huge Titan running over in the distance, feeling the vibration of the ground and the stench from the pavement, Mikasa put her hand on the three-dimensional mobile device and looked at Lin Yan. Hearing Mikasa's words, Lin Yan asked her to stay where she was. Immediately, he inserted the flesh-cutting dagger back into the scabbard in an instant, and Lin Yan's body was ejected from the tree. Break. Lin Yan's body fell from the tree in free fall. Halfway down, two thin black lines shot out, connecting to a big tree in the distance. Immediately, Lin Yan's body was pulled into a bow shape, and he quickly approached the rushing Titan. In midair, the two hands of Titan shook Lin Yan. Lin Yan's body in midair, compared with Titan's huge palm, is like a fly between two fly swatters. Boom. Titan's two huge palms joined together in an instant, making a heavy muffled sound, and the surging air current made the surrounding trees tremble. The steel cable is caught. Mikasa stood on the branch with her heart in her throat. Although the three-dimensional mobile device is easy to use, its shortcomings are also obvious. One is that it is not suitable for use in open areas, the other is that it is affected by gas, and the third is the steel cable. Once caught, the person using the three-dimensional maneuvering device will become a grasshopper tied to a steel cable, with no chance of escape. So seeing the Titan grab the wire, Mikasa tensed up. Creak. The Titan who was fighting with Lin Yan yanked the steel cable in his hand, but it was empty. Lin Yan at the end of the cable disappeared. Click. A black steel cable was connected to Titan's chin, and it straightened instantly. Lin Yan's figure instantly came to the position of Titan's chin. Titan's huge jaw is like a rock wall. Lin Yan looks like a rock climber, hanging on a cliff. Being so close to the Titan's mouth, Lin Yan could even see the Titan's longan-sized pores. Lin Yan's three-dimensional mobile device was modified by him, and it has two sets of launching devices. Being caught by a Titan can instantly cut off the active set, and the other set will be instantly activated. The reason why Lin Yan was so adventurous just now was to test the modified launcher. But even if he is caught by the Titan, Lin Yan doesn't care. His body is strong enough to support the slap of the Titan in front of him. In addition, if Lin Yan wanted to, the knife in his hand could cut Titan's palm in an instant. Before the Titan could react, Lin Yan's feet stepped on the Titan's cliff like chin in an instant, and shot toward the Titan's neck. Pooh! The knife in Lin Yan's hand cut half a circle around Titan's neck, and the blade completely sank into Titan's neck. The Titan's head was quickly severed. This is not over yet. The moment Lin Yan cut off Titan's neck, two broad-bladed short knives were inserted into the back of Titan's neck in an instant. Then a neat piece of nape of the neck was cut off by Lin Yan. Titan, who was still struggling, suddenly became silent. Boom! As if a tall building collapsed, Titan fell heavily to the ground, and the ground was shaken. The dust all over the sky swept out to the surroundings, and amidst the surging airwaves, the surrounding trees shook violently. Soon the corpse of the fallen Titan began to emit white steam. The corpse began to rapidly decompose and disappear.